My girlfriend texted me. I need space to figure things out. Don't make this weird. I didn't say anything back. I read it once. Put the phone face down on the desk. Went back to what I was doing. No anger. No tightness in my chest. Not even a sigh. One thought came to my mind. I replied, okay. Then I muted the notification and finished my work. 3 days later, she posted photos on Twitter. Smiling. Laughing. Anniversary dinner. Candles. Wine. Him sitting across from her at the same restaurant I had booked 6 weeks in advance. She tagged the location. How one post ended a 4-year relationship without a single argument. I was 31. Senior logistics coordinator for a mid-sized freight company. Stable income. My own apartment. No debt outside a manageable car payment. I was not a complicated man. I showed up. I planned. I paid attention to details most people overlook. The reservation made weeks early. The flowers ordered from her favorite florist. The playlist built from songs she mentioned once and forgot she mentioned. That was me. That had always been me. For 4 years, I had been with a woman who received all of that and called it normal. Not special, just normal. Expected. Like air. Like water. Like something that would always be there regardless of whether she honored it. I told myself she was just comfortable. That comfort meant trust. I was wrong. The anniversary was on a Friday. I had taken the day off. Reserved a table at Orion, a restaurant she had mentioned 8 months earlier, once, in passing, while we were watching a food documentary. I had written it down that same night. Just a note in my phone. Orion. She wants to go. Confirmation for 7:30 p.m. A bottle of Sancerre pre-ordered with the kitchen. A small gift, a first edition copy of a novel she had been searching for since college, wrapped and sitting on my kitchen counter. At 11:14 a.m., she texted me. I need space to figure things out. Don't make this weird. That was it. No call. No explanation. No can we talk. Just that. I read it once. I noticed something interesting about myself in that moment. I had expected to feel something sharp, something that knocked the air out. But instead there was only a very quiet clarity. The kind that arrives when something you suspected for a long time is finally confirmed in plain language. I put the phone down. I called Orion. Canceled the reservation. They were gracious about it. I kept the book. Poured myself a glass of water. Sat at my desk. And I started thinking, not emotionally, but practically, about what the last 4 years actually looked like without the filter of love. It did not take long. I replied to her message with one word. Okay. Muted the chat. Went back to work. Did not reach out again. That evening, I ordered food for one. Watched something I had been meaning to watch for months, but had skipped because she didn't like that genre. Went to bed at a reasonable hour. She did not text that night. The next morning was quiet. I worked, exercised, made coffee, existed, calmly, within my own life. It was 9:47 p.m. on the third day. I know the exact time because I happened to check my phone for a work notification when a colleague sent me a screenshot. No message, just the image. Her Twitter, posted 4 hours earlier. 3 photos in a carousel. The restaurant, Orion, the same one, my reservation, my choice, lit with candles exactly as I had imagined it. Her face, bright and laughing. And beside her, partially visible in the second photo, fully visible in the third, him. Her ex. The one she called just a friend now. The one whose history she always minimized with phrases like, that was years ago, and we're completely different people. The caption read, sometimes the universe puts the right people back in your life exactly when you need them. Sparkles grateful. She had tagged the location. The same restaurant. The same Friday night. The reservation I had made and quietly canceled without telling her why, because I had only said, okay. She had no idea I had canceled. She had no idea I had planned any of it. She simply assumed I would either show up confused or not at all, and moved forward without a second thought, using the same restaurant, the same night, as if none of it belonged to anyone. I looked at the screenshot for a long time. Then I set the phone down, finished my tea, and went to sleep. Because the real work wasn't going to happen that night. The real work required a clear head. And I had one. The next morning, I began. Methodically. Without announcement. Without drama. One decision at a time. First, I removed her from my phone plan. We had merged accounts 14 months earlier to save money. Her suggestion, my account, my card. She was a secondary line. I was the primary holder. I called the carrier, provided my credentials, and had her number separated and billed independently within 20 minutes. Her service didn't stop. I simply removed the subsidy. Her bill would now arrive separately, at full rate, with no explanation attached, at the end of the month. She would not know why until the invoice arrived. Second, I removed her from the streaming subscriptions. 4 of them, all under my email, all charged to my card. Her watch lists, her recommendations, her carefully organized queues built over years. Gone. Not deleted with malice. Simply removed, the way you remove a guest profile when the stay is over. Third, I thought about the storage unit. This one she definitely did not know I controlled. 18 months earlier, her building had undergone renovations and she needed somewhere to store furniture temporarily. I had a storage unit, 10 by 12, climate-controlled, paid annually. I told her she could use half. She filled 3/4. Her grandmother's dresser, boxes of clothes, old art prints, a bicycle she hadn't ridden in 2 years. She paid me nothing for it. I never asked. I had simply absorbed it as part of what I did for people I loved. I did not move her things, did not touch them. I sent a calm, factual email. Hi, I'll be discontinuing my storage unit lease at the end of the month. You'll need to collect your belongings before the 28th or arrange alternative storage. I've attached the unit address and access code. Let me know if you have questions. That was all. No, we need to talk. No reference to Twitter. No accusation. Just a practical notice in plain language. Fourth, I withdrew as a reference. She had been applying for a senior role at a marketing firm. She had listed me as a professional reference 3 months earlier. I had agreed. The company had not yet contacted me. I sent them a quiet, professional note retracting my availability, citing a change in personal circumstances. No details. No drama. The withdrawal existed only as a gap, a reference that was there and then wasn't, leaving her to either explain or scramble. Fifth, I called my building manager. She had a spare key to my apartment, given to her in year 2. I had not asked for it back. I did not need to. I arranged for the locks to be rekeyed, a standard request, no reason required, and had new keys cut by end of day. Her key now opened nothing. Each of these things took less than 2 hours. None of them were cruel. All of them were simply accurate. Accounting. I had extended resources, access, and trust into a relationship that had quietly ended without my knowledge while I was canceling reservations and going to bed at a reasonable hour. I was correcting the ledger. She called on the 4th day. I did not answer. I had nothing useful to say in a phone conversation. I let it go to voicemail. Hey, I think we should talk. Call me when you can. Calm. Casual. As if nothing had happened. I did not call back. On the 5th day she texted, "Are you seriously doing this right now?" I replied once, in writing, "Doing what?" She did not respond to that. On the 7th day, the storage unit email landed with the weight it deserved. 3 missed calls within 40 minutes. A voicemail that started composed and ended less so. A text, "This is insane. You can't just do this. We need to actually talk." I replied in writing, "I've been clear about the timeline. If you need help arranging movers, I'm happy to forward a contact." That was all. She showed up at my building on the 9th day. The front desk called up. Standard procedure. Visitors must be buzzed in. I told them I wasn't available to receive guests and asked them to let her know she was welcome to leave a message at the desk. She did not leave a message. On the 10th day, her sister texted me. We had always been civil. She said, "She's really upset. She didn't mean for things to go like this. Can you please just talk to her?" I replied, "I wish her well. The storage deadline stands." That was the end of that conversation. On the 11th day, Marcus called. A mutual friend. Someone I had known longer than I had known her. I answered because I had no issue with Marcus. He said, "Man, she's pretty upset. She's saying you're freezing her out." "What happened?" I said, "We've ended the relationship. I'm handling the practical side of things." He said, "She says you didn't even give her a chance to explain." I said, "She explained on Twitter." Pause. He said, "Ah." That was the end of that conversation. On the 14th day, things escalated further. She posted a second time on Twitter. Vaguer. More calculated. Going through it. Some people show their true character when things don't go their way. Her followers flooded the replies. "You deserve better. He sounds controlling." Cut him off completely. A small, loud chorus built entirely from one side of a story she had carefully framed. I read it once. I did not reply. Not on Twitter. Not anywhere. I took a screenshot, dated it, filed it, because people who are panicking make statements publicly that require documentation privately. And I had learned years before this moment that the person who documents everything almost always has the cleaner exit. I was building a record. On the 16th day, I received an email from someone identifying themselves as a friend with some legal background, not an attorney, notably, just a friend, suggesting that withholding access to a shared storage space could be considered a legal matter. I forwarded it to my actual attorney within the hour, not because I was worried, because documentation is a discipline. My attorney replied quickly. The storage unit was leased in my name, paid by my account. No secondary agreement, no shared tenancy, no legal obligation to any third party. I had provided more than reasonable notice. There was no case. There had never been a case. There was only a bluff, deployed in panic by someone who had suddenly realized how much of their daily comfort had been quietly underwritten by someone else. I replied to the email with 3 lines. I've consulted with legal counsel. The notice I provided is both reasonable and sufficient. The access code remains valid until the 28th. No anger, no elaboration, precision only. On the 19th day, she tried one more thing. She called my workplace, asked to speak with someone in HR, said she had a personal matter involving an employee. HR flagged it to my manager as standard procedure. My manager, who had known me for 6 years, called me directly. He said, "You okay?" Someone called and asking questions. I said, "Yes. I have documentation of everything if it's ever needed." He said, "All right. I'll handle it from here." That was the last external move she made, because by the 19th day, she had tried everything available to her. The calls, the texts, the sister, the mutual friend, the Twitter posts, the legal bluff, the workplace call, every lever she could reach, and none of them had moved me, not 1 inch. The storage unit items were collected on the 24th. For days before my deadline, she sent a 2-person crew, movers she had hired. She did not come herself. I know because I passed through the area on a separate errand and stopped briefly to ensure access was smooth. The crew was professional, in and out in under 90 minutes. The grandmother's dresser, the boxes, the art prints, the bicycle that hadn't moved in 2 years, all loaded and gone. When they left, the unit was empty. I drove to the leasing office and formally closed the account. No celebration, no relief, just the quiet, clean feeling of a pending invoice finally removed from the ledger. She sent one final message, 29 days after the first text, the one that said, "I need space to figure things out." 11:52 p.m. on a Sunday. I was already asleep. Read it the next morning, over coffee. It said, "I hope you know that I didn't plan for any of this to go the way it did. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I just thought you'd understand. I think I underestimated what I was walking away from. I'm sorry if the timing was bad." I sat with it for a while, not because I was reconsidering, but because the message was worth reading carefully, the way you read a document before filing it. I think I underestimated what I was walking away from. There it was. Finally, in plain language. Not "I was wrong." Not "I treated you carelessly." Not "I used your reservation, your restaurant, your anniversary night, and felt no conflict doing so." Just "I underestimated." As if the error was arithmetic. A figure plugged in incorrectly that produced an unexpected result. I replied once. The last thing I ever sent her. "I know you weren't trying to hurt me. Take care of yourself." I did not reopen the chat after that. What followed was very ordinary. I cleaned my apartment more thoroughly than I had in months. Rebuilt my streaming recommendations from scratch. Audited every financial thread she had touched, more than I had consciously tracked, small ones, invisible ones, the accumulated residue of 4 years. I closed what needed closing, updated what needed updating. I slept better than I had in a long time. Not because I was relieved to be rid of her. That is too simple and too unkind. But because the low-grade tension I had been carrying, the tension of a relationship that had become asymmetrical without either of us naming it, was gone. And the body knows when a weight is lifted, even when the mind is still processing what it meant. I went back to Orion about 6 weeks later, alone for lunch, not as a statement, not as a ritual, simply because I had wanted to go for 8 months and had never gone. The food was good. I did not feel sad sitting there. I felt something more honest than sad. I felt the texture of a man who had spent years making careful plans for someone else and was now, for the first time in a while, making them only for himself. Not triumphant, not grief, just accurate. What I missed was not her. What I missed was the version of the relationship I believed I was in. The one where the reservations meant something. Where the first edition novel on the counter was received the way it was intended. Where "I need space" would have been a conversation, not a dismissal. Where our anniversary was ours, not an occasion to be quietly repurposed. I missed the relationship I had been sustaining on both sides. The one where I contributed enough presence, enough attention, enough care for two people, and called it a partnership. That version did not exist. It had not existed for longer than I was willing to calculate. And the most uncomfortable truth, I had known. Not consciously, not in a way I would have named on an ordinary Tuesday, but somewhere beneath the rationalization and the loyalty and the willingness to absorb imbalance and call it love, I had known. The text on the anniversary was not a surprise. It was a confirmation. Cause and effect do not require your acknowledgement to operate. That is what people discover too late. The consequences of how they treated someone do not wait for them to be ready. They do not arrive with a confrontation. They do not come with an argument you can win. They arrive as a phone bill at full rate, as a streaming profile that no longer exists, as a storage unit that must be vacated by the 28th, as a door that no longer opens to a key you still carry. She thought she had created space. What she had actually done was create distance. And there is a difference, significant, irreversible, that she did not understand until the distance was already measured in weeks and closed accounts, and one final message at 11:52 p.m. that I read the next morning, over coffee, in a clean apartment, with nowhere I needed to be and nothing I needed to explain. You do not need someone to finally recognize your value in order for you to act on it. The moment you recognize it yourself is enough. The person who stays calm when you expect them to shatter is not cold. They simply already know what you haven't figured out yet. And here is the question I will leave you with. Not about me, not about her, but about you. If someone treated you exactly the way I was treated, dismissed without a conversation, replaced without hesitation, posted about publicly without a second thought, would you have stayed quiet and acted? Or would you have called? Because every time you call when you should have stayed silent, you teach them exactly how long they have to wait before you come back. And they will keep the reservation, just not the one you made.